special edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. We are coming to you from Palm Springs at the California State Association of Counties Convention. We are joined by Dave Roberts, member of the Board of Supervisors in San Diego County. He is leaving the board after 4 years. A bit of a surprise, I think it's fair to say. Let's talk through the last couple of weeks, if we may.
Right, just had an election, very contentious election, not only at the national and state level, but the local election also. Here in California, out of 20 supervisor races, now 9 of the 20 have lost their races, and I was the 9th out of 250,000 votes. I lost by about 1,200.
And it was a double surprise because you had been leading on election night all the way through the last ballot count.
Right.
So we expected, I mean, forgive me, but tonight for you to be sworn in as the president of the California State Association of Counties.
Right.
You know, it hurts me to say that, but this was an unexpected turn of events.
Well, I think that's one of the things when you get involved in elective politics, you always have to realize that you're going to have winners and losers.
Of course.
And you can't win every time. And really, I think this was a very competitive race. There were a lot of factors involved in this race and a lot of outside factors.
Right.
But again, we ran a great campaign. My opponent ran a great campaign. She came out just slightly above me. We're less than 1/2% more votes she had than I had. So I've already called and talked with her. We've talked about having a smooth transition. I've wished her well.
Of course.
And I've offered to help however I can with her transition. But I'm really proud of my service. I've been in public service for 12 years. 8 years on the Solana Beach City Council. I was a council member, deputy mayor, and then mayor. And now 4 years on the Board of Supervisors.
And it's interesting because when you won 4 years ago, some folks were surprised by that. And so you just don't know, like you said. I mean, why did it work 4 years ago and this time a squeaker
Right.
went
Well,
the
4
other
years
way?
ago when I won, it was by about 4,000 votes. I have a very competitive district. Of the 5 districts in San Diego County, mine is the competitive one. That's the way it was set up. But now with term limits, this would have been my last term should I have won.
Which is also interesting because one could have argued you have done well. We'll talk about your accomplishments. You've become a leader in the state. Let's let San Diego benefit from your leadership as president of this organization. That's not going to happen. And when we saw a few years ago, Eric Cantor, congressman from Virginia, about to be Speaker of the House, his voters said no. So sometimes state leadership or national leadership can backfire.
Right.
I don't know if that happened here, but
right. No, and again, when I mentioned the 9, I mean, some other leaders at the California State Association of Counties were defeated also that are on our board of directors. And so having those positions don't always equate to what the voters back home are looking for. While they're really beneficial to the voters don't always see it that way.
And what's interesting, if I may, is that California voted pretty darn blue. Despite what happened in the rest of the nation, San Diego County voted pretty darn blue, despite the way it voted 20 years ago, but you ran in a nonpartisan race.
Right.
And so there was no D or R next to your name or your opponent's name, and one could argue that may have been a problem.
Right.
You know, when the county's going Democratic, they didn't know you're a Democrat.
And my opponent was from the sister city. She was a mayor. I was a former mayor. There's a lot of similarities.
Right.
People just, may not have
She's a
known.
Republican.
Yes.
So let's talk about the last 4 years because they have been successful. I think it's fair to say, even your colleagues or your opponents would say, that there are some accomplishments of which you can be proud. I want to talk about some of them. One of them, the Palomar Center. We've talked about it. Tell us about Palomar.
Well, the Palomar Forensic Health Center, we learned was going to be closed. And when I heard about that, I said, this cannot happen. And I convened a group of people, the sheriff, the district attorney, a fellow supervisor, and Palomar Health System itself. And I said, what can we do to keep this open? This is a center that provides compassionate care to adults and children who have been abused. We not only provide care to them, but we get the DNA evidence to hopefully convict the bad person. And so what we wanted to do was find the resources to keep it open. And I'm really pleased to say we found those resources, we came together, and we now have this. So there are now 2 of these facilities in San Diego. This is the North County one, and we also have one in downtown San Diego. So very proud to do that.
And you, what our viewers may not know, you're a dad to 6.
6.
And they all came to your home initially as foster children.
They did.
I'm going to start, I can feel myself welling up thinking about it because it is an incredibly touching story. You and your spouse, 6 children, ages what to what?
Ages 3 to 21.
And you may be a grandpa soon. Wasn't there a wedding?
Our 21-year-old got married.
Yeah.
He actually called this morning. He's in the Air Force stationed in New Mexico now. He got married.
You'd be a young grandpa, I was going to say. So, but talk to us about you. And I actually see Kathy Long walking by. She is a supervisor from Ventura County, another advocate of foster children. We're talking about you on our interview. And so talk to us about what you've done for foster kids.
So working with my colleagues, in particular Supervisor Greg Cox, Supervisor Ron Roberts, we established the Exceptional Families Member Program. We wanted to make sure that every foster child had the opportunity to get into an adoptive home.
Right.
So we set up this special program just for some of the foster kids that used to not have that ability. And we went out and we looked for parents, single parents, older couples, same-sex couples that wanted to have children but weren't able to for one reason or another. Very successful program. Over 50 kids have been adopted now through that program, and I think another great success story. And again, one of my many passions.
But what does this mean to you? I mean, look, San Diego County, second largest county in the state. It's hard, as hard as you may try to impact a single life when there's so many lives in a county of what, 1.3 million, I think it is. And yet you can say that you impacted at least 50.
Right.
You know,
well, San Diego has 3.3 million.
Oh, 3.3 million. I misspoke.
People, and I think the programs that we set up are going to pay dividends literally for generations to come, because kids that we can either get stabilized and back into their biological families or into foster or adoptive families, it's going to create positive ramifications for years to come. And that's why I think my colleagues came together working with me on programs like this, and I'm really so proud of that.
We've also spoke about mental health, and we know that that is a challenge in a whole variety of locations for a variety of reasons, including our homeless neighbors. San Diego County overall has seen a bit of a drop, but downtown has seen a spike. And so talk to us about what you've done for the last 4 years in terms of behavioral services.
In particular, partnering with Supervisor Diane Jacob, we've expanded mental health offerings and behavioral health offerings. For the first time in the history of the county, we appropriated over $500 million for mental health and behavioral health services. We expanded psychiatric emergency response teams from 20 to 40 teams. So really providing more tools for families in crisis. We opened up crisis stabilization units at 2 hospitals up in North County. We opened up our 7th crisis residential unit in Escondido in my district. So providing those much needed tools, because again, these are what counties do. They provide the tools and resources at the ground level for people, that safety net for people.
One could argue counties impact us more than any other layer of government on a daily basis.
Right.
His name is Dave Roberts. He is a supervisor in San Diego County. He is leaving that office at the end of this year, but I am confident that he is not done with public service and he will be back in some form. Promise you'll stay in touch.
Thank you.
We are coming to you from Palm Springs, California at the California State Association of Counties Convention. My name is Brad Pomerance. We thank you so much for joining us on Charter Local Edition.